Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Sup, Craig?
I'm nervous, Jeff.
And the funny thing is, when you get nervous, like, your nerves are like palpable. Like, you are very much like, whatever your emotion is in the moment, it is very much like right there. I think that's why we're such good friends, because I'm also like that.
Yep.
So it's like, we're both just like, you got a front row seat to that, last weekend at the Sounders when I was like stressing so hard about that stupid game. But anyway.
Yeah. I right before this, I tried to do a little bit of energy dump. Like I just ranted about something that I was coming up in, because I've been writing my preview tonight because I've been sick earlier in this week, so I haven't had time to write my preview. So you guys will probably get the preview about the time you get the podcast. So, but yeah, so I've just Amanda got a little bit of me ranting about things that have me worried about this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers. With me is Jeff Nusser, and this is our Oregon State preview. The Bowl.
The Bowl.
which of course adds that extra layer of nerves, because the one thing, this has been a generally shitty season, and the one thing that could kind of wash away some of those sins is just to get to a bowl game. That you can feel, hey, we had a bad season, but how many bad WSU seasons have ended in a bowl game? Like zero.
Like zero of them.
And so, yeah, if we could have a bad WSU season that caused us this much torment, and still end up in a bowl game, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So and obviously we're looking ahead to the week after, and we're not banking on that one. So it's feeling like this one or not. So yeah, and then the Beavs are in the same exact situation. They haven't been to a bowl game since 2013.
Yeah, except they had no expectations of a bowl when they came into the season. Right?
Exactly. So they're kind of on borrowed. They're
just like, this season for them is like our, whatever it was, 2013, right? Where,
which we got to a bowl game.
And we did get to a bowl game, right? So we're coming off this terrible season, and then all of a sudden, in 2013 was so bizarre because there were games where we just, absolutely got our asses kicked. And then there were games where, we played pretty well. We had that weird ass USC game that you were at, right? Where we didn't score an offensive touchdown and still somehow won the game. So yeah, like Oregon State's got to just be sort of on cloud nine, hey, we're house money at this point. We're just like holding on for dear life. And I think if you win this one, you get to the bowl game. I think all of a sudden that UCLA loss, you kind of put it in the rearview mirror, because what's really the difference between 7 wins and 6 wins, right? Like, you could end up in the same bowl game at 7 wins as you do at 6 wins.
Well, if you're at 7 and you end up in the Sun Bowl, and you're at 6, you end up in the Vegas Bowl. Which one are you happier?
Yeah, that's true. But there's obviously a huge difference between 5 and 6.
Yeah, 5 and 6 is a huge difference.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's the Beavers have won 3 of their 4 Pac-12 wins have come on the road. So they ain't scared of playing on the road.
Are you trying to tell me that they are not going to be intimidated by 13,000 people at Martin Stadium on Saturday?
Yeah, if that. They're giving away 10,000 of those Mike Leach talking head things.
There might be some left over.
I know, like, oh man.
It's so bad. Like, okay, so I sent you a text, this morning. So or it was either this morning or yesterday morning. Maybe it was yesterday. But I finally caved and bought our tickets. And I've been kind of keeping an eye on StubHub. I'm like, okay, you know, how many? And SeatGeek, I'm like, you know, I really would like to get our tickets for about $20 a ticket.
You got to buy 5.
I got to buy 5. And I'm like, okay, you know, and I keep looking. And I'm noticing that, you know, I got to buy 5. So I got to have a pretty large group of tickets, even though we probably could sit wherever we wanted to. But still, I'm like, you know, I got to buy 5 tickets. So I'm noticing that the larger groups of ticket are kind of getting bought. And so I'm thinking, okay, I probably should buy them. And I see they're all hovering right around $25. So I'm like, all right, I'm finally going to buy them. So I buy them. I kid you not, 3 hours later, Wazoo sends an email that says, hey, CAF member, $19 tickets for this weekend. All you got to do is use this link. And I'm thinking, oh, $19 plus fees. It's probably a wash. And then I click and I'm like, no, they're actually $19.
Yeah, it's $14 plus a $5 fee. Yeah.
God damn it. I'm like, I could have saved myself $30. So I'm sure whoever it was that I bought my 5 tickets from is thankful that I bought them, because at least he got some of his money back. I do know it's a he because his name is on the tickets. I'm like,
yeah, of course.
I'm like, yeah, he's probably happy that I bought his tickets. So I guess I can feel good about that. So. But hey, if you're out there and you're thinking about going, $19 tickets.
Yeah,
they're practically giving them away.
Send us an email, podversuseveryone@gmail.com.
Yeah.
If you're not a CAF member, we'll send you the link. We'd like as many people in there.
Yes, we would.
And yeah, students, if you're listening to this and you're not listening to it while driving back to your home, please stay in Pullman.
Please stay.
And I'll say this. I'll say this, and I'll tweet it out again. I'll be at the Coug before the game at some point. If you're a student, you can prove to me that I'll probably take your word for it if you have a Cougar card, but if you're a student and you come up to me at the Coug and you say you're staying for the football game, I will buy you a pitcher of beer. The first one. Only the first one, not every one of you. But the first one that does, I will buy you a pitcher of beer.
I love that.
And because, seriously, please stay for the game.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, we also, have this
it's
conversation.
the last chance you have to watch in person this glorious offense, possibly the best version of a WSU offense ever.
Yeah.
And you might watch Anthony Gordon set the record for Pac-12 touchdowns, and it's a pretty, it should be a high scoring game and on both sides and stressful and fun and yeah, stay for the game.
Yeah, we've talked about this, obviously not on the podcast because the podcast didn't exist a year ago, but we talk about this every year on Slack, and we're always like, nobody ever graduates from college thinking, man, I really wish I would have gone home more, to see my parents or to see my friends or whatever. It's so weird, like once you graduate, you're like, gosh, if I could just have, one more football weekend, if I could just have one more, night to party with my friends, it's all the stuff that you finally remember about college. It's not, man, I wish I could have gotten out of there Friday morning instead of Saturday morning to go home and, for Thanksgiving break. I mean, I don't know, man. You only get so many of these games when you're in college, and it gets awfully hard to get back when you're out. So I would highly encourage any students who listen to this, man, figure out a way to stay. If you're in a dorm, figure out a way to stay. If you're in an apartment, you have no excuse. I mean, it's just, man, find a way to. I'm going. I'm sure I'm anticipating passing like a giant line of cars going the other direction on my way in. But man, stay.
Yeah,
and
and
not regret it.
You're not going to get rained on. It'll be cold.
It's just gonna be a little cold.
If you live in Pullman, you have the clothes to weather 38
Get your wool
degrees.
socks on.
Yeah.
Find your puffy jacket.
Get a beanie on.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Oh, I got to mention that WSU beanie that I told you about.
yeah. Let's hear about it from Fanatics.
So from Fanatics.com, they had 2 different beanies on order. One said Washington, and I figured the other side said State, but one said Washington and had a Cougar logo on it. But I wanted to buy a beanie for Amanda for her birthday, which is on Sunday, so we're going to the game on Saturday, Sunday. So Cougs, give her a nice birthday present, or give her a nice birthday present via me being happier. But I ordered the beanie that said Cougars on it. It's a New Era beanie. They both were New Era beanies. But when they showed up yesterday, it was the one that said Washington. And so I figured we flipped to the other side. Well, if it says State, she'll probably be okay with it.
Yeah.
The other side also says Washington with a WSU logo on it in crimson and gray. I'm like, what the hell is this? Why would any WSU fan want this beanie? It just says Washington on it.
That's horrible.
And so what I'm guessing is they make these beanies, and I saw other ones like and it's the same, New Era makes the same style of hat and stuff for like all the different sports. And
sure.
So like I saw like, like Pittsburgh Steelers one just says Pittsburgh on it. So I'm guessing they just have like this one name and it's just standardized. And so they just made it and didn't even think about it for WSU.
Not a good choice.
But yeah, so we're sending that one back. I found the actual Cougars one at the Dick's Sporting Goods in town, so we're all set there. But I was pretty annoyed. Like, come on, Washington! Like, why are you selling this beanie? Why would anyone want this?
Super annoying.
If you have that, I'm sorry, you made a poor choice, or you got stuck with it because your grandma bought it for you and you felt bad about turning it away.
Right.
But anyway, let's talk some football.
Heck yeah.
So, as always, we'll start with the more terrifying thing. And as I'll say this, like I was nervous about Stanford last week more because the importance of winning the game. Like we basically need these two games to ensure bowl eligibility, the Stanford game and the Oregon State game. And I was just nervous about losing because then suddenly you're 4-6 and you have to win the last two, including the Apple Cup, to get to a bowl. But there wasn't a whole lot about Stanford that scared me a ton. Like and it kind of like everything we talked about kind of came to fruition. They were bad in scoring opportunities. David Shaw punted when he really shouldn't have. Like they missed a field goal. We were able to stop them via an interception once, and basically that ended up being the difference in the game. But Oregon State doesn't have those negative factors on offense that Stanford does, and they do not have David Shaw leading their offense.
No.
And can I just start with the scariest thing?
Yeah.
Oregon State hasn't kicked a field goal in 4 fucking games. Oregon State not even tried. They don't even bother, and including a game where they scored 21 points. Like they just don't even try
on 'em.
because they're 2 of 7 on field goals, and Jonathan Smith said, "Screw this, we aren't kicking field goals anymore." And guess where that put them? Oregon State is in the top 5. I think they're 4th or 2nd. I could look, but they're in the top 5 in both touchdown rate and scoring opportunities once they get inside the 40, and touchdown rate and red zone opportunities. Like, so they're not like, they're a little bit below average in getting to the opportunity and getting to the red zone. Yeah. But once they do, they cash in. They cash in as good as anyone in the country.
They are actually number 1 in touchdown percentage in the red zone. 85%. 29 touchdowns in 34 trips. That's absurd.
Yep. So, so they're going to go for it. Like, WSU's bad on 3rd down. That means they're bad on 4th down too. Like they're bad at getting off the field. Like it's scary because and we'll talk about it in the offensive one, but you look at the other side of the ball, we've been happy to kick field goals on 4th and shorts.
Remember when teams used to be terrified of us because they had to defend us for 4 downs instead of just 3?
Well, guess what? That's what we're doing, especially when they get inside in WSU territory. Yep. Oregon State's going to go for it, and they did last year too. Yep. They went for it. Yep. It worked out. That's how they stayed in the game for so long.
Trick plays.
But WSU doesn't have the advantage overall on defense, particularly that they had last year, to keep them out of those opportunities. So that's why it's much scarier. And Oregon State runs the ball well. They're 17th nationally in rushing success rate. They use 2 different guys. Jamar Jefferson's the guy that tore us up last year. He's been hurt off and on this year, so he's only played in about 7 games. He's actually been yielding roughly half the carries in the last 3 games to another guy who's been a lot more explosive. I have to go back to my preview here. Artavis Pierce. So he actually has been better yards per attempt, 5.9 versus 4.7 for Jefferson. He's also more of a threat to catch the ball. He has 21 catches. Jefferson has like 3. So that he's definitely kind of, even as Jefferson has come back from injury, he's been getting, a good amount of carries, and he's definitely going to be more explosive. He gets 10 plus yard run on about 17% of his runs. Jefferson's about 12. So Pierce is definitely the scarier guy, but Jefferson's still kind of that bruiser that definitely can give our small defense trouble. So their running game, and we've seen that we saw against Oregon, they just kind of were like, let's run the ball, and they did, and they got one big run, and then they were able to kind of chew away on the rest of the runs, and they ended up with a ton of rushing yards, and Arizona State was able to run the ball, and a lot of teams have been able to run the ball against WSU. A lot of teams have been able to pass the ball, so there's that temptation there. So, yeah, Jeff, what do you think? What's it going to look like? Or is Oregon State going to try to chew the clock on us because they probably can move the ball with the run?
Oh, I don't think they'll try to chew the clock. I think they'd be more than happy to get into a shootout, to be honest. Because I think they probably feel good about their chances to score and keep scoring and keep scoring. Isaiah Hodgins, we haven't talked about the passing attack yet, but they've got Isaiah Hodgins out there who, is probably not even probably, he's one of the 5 best receivers in the conference. What's interesting about their passing attack is that he's got 73 catches. Nobody else has more than 35. So he's definitely the go-to guy. He's got over 1,000 yards. Nobody else has more than 325.
Yeah, he catches about a third of the passes.
Yeah. So he's the guy, and that's what's going to be sort of fascinating is does WSU and how does WSU try to maybe take him away? Obviously, if it was that easy, everyone would do it. So it's going to be that part's going to be interesting to me.
The only 2 teams that have been able to do it are Washington and Cal. So.
Right, and we are not those defenses. So. The key, I think, given what you were talking about with the way that they will go for it and just sort of, the way that they're going through this season really with nothing to lose is going to be, I think it's going to be that rushing game. If we can be reasonably decent against the rushing attack and put them, behind the chains, and at least make it that much more difficult to try and pick up those 3rd and 4th downs. If they're getting 4 yards on first down with a run and, 3 or 4 yards on second down with a run. And all of a sudden it's 3rd and 2. Well, you throw an incomplete pass. Okay. It's 4th and you get in these situations where it's the probabilities go up of, conversion. We will need to put them in positions where they're less likely to convert. They're going to move the ball. It's when they get across the 50, are you putting them in, 3rd and 10, 4th and 8, that kind of stuff versus 3rd and 3, 4th and 2 kind of stuff.
And that's what I was thinking about in my preview. They do give up some sacks given how, often they throw it, which is, a little over half the time. So they give up sacks about the same rate that WSU gets sacks. So I would expect a couple sacks, and I would expect a few tackles for loss. So those need to be well timed. Those have to come. Since Bellatoni has taken over, we've seen some nicely timed, 3rd down blitzes. Maybe something like we saw him send 7 and get a sack against Stanford. Something more like that again. Just taking that risk, as the risk is probably worth it, because if your defense is going to give up the touchdown anyway, if you're going to give it up on that one play, you're just going to get this sack and get off the field. Trying to stop them, especially before they get across midfield, so they're not tempted to go for it and put you in where you have to defend for an extra down, where you're always at a disadvantage. Every down you're at a disadvantage because your defense is that bad and your secondary is that bad and your defensive line is kind of getting pushed around. So I'm hoping that you would hope that those are well timed. It's funny, Bill Connolly predicts them to only score 27 points his SP plus, only 27 points against us, which is like wild to me.
Yeah.
Because when you
really
but
low.
what's one thing when you get down into the peripherals of what goes into SP plus and what like that's when you kind of see where like there's some matchups that are not good for the Cougs, like and particularly getting into the scoring opportunities of red zones. Like this is literally terrifying for me that Oregon State is just going to go for it. They're not going to kick a field goal. They have not kicked a field goal in over a month. They're not going to kick a field goal. They're not going to bail out our defense like Colorado did, like Stanford did, by settling for a field goal. That's not going to happen this time. Because you got to know every time, if you're a fan of that stadium, if it's 4th and 4 and that kicking team trots out, you feel like your defense just had a victory this year.
Oh, a huge victory.
Yeah, like that, because you're like 4th and 4. Who the hell can't get 4 yards against these guys?
Yeah,
like and so yeah, like Oregon State it's like this is where that comes to roost, man. Like this is the team that's not going. They just don't give a fuck about like kicking field goals, and this has worked really well for them, particularly on the road. Because I think like you'll see other teams might get conservative against them and they capitalize on it because they score touchdowns. Their team kicks field goal, suddenly they're on top. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm tip of the cap to Jonathan Smith on that.
Yeah,
and
know your team,
and good for him. Don't lose that. Don't lose that if your team gets better. Don't suddenly, or if you get a better kicker, don't lose that edge.
Yeah, I think the thing that's going to be interesting is they are probably going to have some fairly demoralizing conversions, and so the question is, does the defense, does the defense fold in that instance? Is the defense able to, kind of stand up and weather it? Because you're going to have these drives where you get, they get up toward midfield, they, convert, if you think you've got them off the field on, 4th and 7, except they go ahead and go for it instead of punting it. And then they convert. And then, so at some point they're going to have a drive that's probably like, 15 or 16 plays or something ridiculous like that. 'Cause they had, a string of like 4th down conversions, where they had a couple of them. And, so yeah, it's going to be on the defense to see not just, if it can obviously stop them on those, but when they aren't successful, if they're, and it's the 13th, 14th, 15th play of the drive, if they're able to hang in there. And so that's going to be the question. If they give up a couple of 4th down conversions and then there's another, 4th and 5 from our 25-yard line, can you finally get the stop at that point? That's going to be the key. Or do you give up the back-breaking play like we have seemed to do at, really every turn all year?
Yeah, absolutely. The defense seems to have played better at home in the last 2 games. And Colorado was a pretty good offense, and they played pretty well. Stanford is not, but the defense was able to come up with some stops. But again, those aren't the type of stops that you're getting in this game. You're not getting David Shaw saying, the punter on 4th and 3 from the 37 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to happen. So this is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a nail biter when they have the ball, and any time that Oregon State doesn't score, you be happy.
Yeah.
Because not that like Oregon State's offense isn't like a world burning. Like they're 35th in SP plus. Like their yards per play is not very good. They're not that explosive. Like, but they just they wear you down, and they use all 4 downs. Like they're 68th in yard per play.
Right.
Like their success rate is 30th. Like it's not like they're not like a world beating offense. But the reason they've been able to do well is because they convert into touchdowns. And and like I said, they're below average in getting into the red zone. They're below average in getting into scoring opportunities. But when they're there, they convert it. So and they're playing a defense that's probably going to allow them to move the ball more. So this is obviously this is a game before the season that we didn't worry much about, but Oregon State has definitely taken a step forward on offense this year. And I am in full-on butt-clenching mode, let me tell you.
There's going to be a lot of butt clenching. Like, it's just going to be like, okay, here's another 4th down. Okay, we survived that one. You know, it's going to be a lot of that.
All right. Oh, man. You want to take a break, talk about the offense?
Yep, let's do that. And we're back. Score some points.
That we should do.
We should do lots of that.
So we always do the offense last because then we can be more positive and then predict the Cougs to win at the end.
Yeah.
Oregon State's defense. So let's start with the scariest thing about Oregon State's defense. They are 12th in tackles for loss. They have 80 tackles for loss this season. 80.
That's a lot.
8 per game.
And they're still terrible. Which is amazing.
That's led by Hamilcar Rashed Jr., who has 22 and a half tackles for loss, 14 are sacks. He's a linebacker, so obviously a kind of rush linebacker there.
Yeah. Now, by the way, before you continue, how many Hamilcars have you ever heard of?
That is the very first one.
I mean, are you familiar with Hamilcar Barca?
No.
The former, I think, like emperor of Rome or something. Like,
nope. Now I am.
That's the only other time
he's
I have
he's
heard
very
the
clearly
name
named
Hamilcar.
after that guy, right?
Yeah, like I actually had to look because I saw him. I saw his name and I went,
Hannibal's dad.
Yeah, I saw the name and I went, okay, is he like named after? So I tried to see if there were other famous Hamilcars, and there, as near as I could tell, were not. And then I was like, oh well, maybe Hamilcar means something like great warrior or something, I don't know, whatever. And then I read it and it basically just means like brother of whatever his brother's name was. And I was like, okay, apparently his parents just maybe they were fans of ancient Rome and decided they were gonna honor one of the conquerors of ancient Rome. So I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a wild name.
That's just, whatever.
Yeah,
anyway, he's good at tackling
he's
people
good
behind
at
the line
tackling.
of scrimmage.
But also, kind of to neutralize that, WSU is second nationally in tackles for loss allowed. Only giving up 31 all year.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yep.
Pretty good.
That's what happens when you drop back and drop back and drop back, and your quarterback gets rid of the ball before people can get to him most of the time. So.
Exactly. So there won't be as many opportunities, I think, as usual for Hamilcar. Like, I mean, he'll probably get a sack or something, but I don't think it'll. I don't think that he'll be living in the backfield. And even if he does, the ball's probably already gone by the time he gets there. So I'm feeling okay. I think we can neutralize that. Come on, Liam Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like their defensive. See, and we've talked about this before, how we love it when offensive and defensive strategies align, right? Like if something's really important to you offensively, you probably ought to figure that's really important to take away defensively. So I wonder if this is sort of their flip side, right? Where you are ultra aggressive, playing high variance, trying to get a big play, going backwards, or, maybe forcing a turnover or something, knowing that, you don't really have the bodies to slug it out with somebody, somewhat like what they're doing on offense, right? Where they're like, we can't be settling for field goals if we're going to win these games. We got to score touchdowns. And so we're just going to go for it on 4th down and go for it. So it's like this aggressive mentality, understanding that they, on both sides of the ball, that they need a high variance strategy to try and be successful enough against teams that, probably have them outmanned to some degree.
Exactly. So where it falls apart for Oregon State is they may get that tackles for loss, but on passing downs, they are 115th in success rate.
That's bad.
Yeah. So they
so a passing down. So define a passing down really quick. Just make sure people understand what it means to be unsuccessful on a passing down.
So passing downs is anything greater than a 2nd or 5, or and then anything greater than 3rd and 3, right? So to be successful on a passing down, so if it was 2nd and 6, to be successful, you get to 2nd and 2 or 3rd and 2. To be successful on 3rd and 4, 3rd and plus, it'd be a first down would be the only way. So if you're 3rd and 10, the only success is getting a first down. So 1st and 10 counts as a standard down. It's not a passing down. 1st and 15 becomes a passing down. So if it's 1st and 15 and you get half the yardage necessary for a first down, that becomes a successful play. So if you turn it into 2nd and 6, then you're 2nd and 7, you're a successful play. So whatever. So the passing downs, it's not, just the 3rd down that you think of, like the 3rd and 4 that in the NFL when they're like, oh, it's a passing down. Passing downs are in what we're thinking are extend to every down basically.
Right.
But they're bad when it's typical for teams to pass the ball, they are not good.
Right.
They're not really good overall. They're 89th in success rate against. They're 75th on standard downs. So that's probably they're probably tick up to 75th on standard downs because they get those tackles for loss, and then they give up the big play on.
Right.
So the Cougs, if you want to feel a little better. So that we got the 3rd best success rate nationally versus the 89th success rate allowed nationally. We have the fourth best on standard downs versus the 75th on standard down, or 2nd on standard downs versus the 75th on standard downs. We have the 4th best on passing downs offense versus the 115th best passing downs defense. So good matchup, as it typically is for the Cougs. Cal not included and Utah not included. The OSU, they really don't have that good of a stuff rate, given that they're only about average in stuff rate, given how often they get behind in the backfield. So stuff rate is stopping to run at or behind the line. They're only about average in that because the rest of the time they're giving up big runs.
Right.
The WSU should move the ball. Now the big question, Jeff, as always, is WSU going to score a touchdown when they get in the red zone or score an opportunity? So WSU's 34th in red zone touchdown rate. It's not bad, but it's not elite. The Beavs are the one thing that they are good at, much like the Cougs, is they're decent. They're 46th in red zone touchdown rate allowed. So, like you said, they emphasize one thing on one side. They emphasize it on the other. They emphasize stopping touchdowns. They emphasize scoring touchdowns when they're in the red zone. So yeah, that's where it puckers. So, I think. I've watched that red zone rate for the Cougs dip throughout the season, but the red zone, but I feel like that's a lot of that has been due to settling for field goals more and more as the season has went on.
Yep.
And that is a scary proposition against a team that is not going to settle for field goals.
Right.
And especially a team that doesn't settle for field goals and then also converts and scores touchdowns. It's not like they're failing on 4th down over and over again. They're not. They're scoring. So, this is so I think WSU is going to score. They're going to move the ball. It could be it could be a no punt situation like against Stanford. It very well could be that. But against Stanford, 3 times those no punts were field goals, and 1 time it was an interception. So you could potentially say they left, 19 points on the board right there. Like, that could have been, close to a drop 70 situation in that game. Right. But we just didn't have enough. I think it would have been a touchdown every time to be drop 70. But yeah, so it's it's a bit scary. Like if Leach, if we get down early and get down close, get down to the 20, then 18 or whatever, and Leach, and it's 4th and 5, and Leach sends out that field goal unit.
Yep.
I'll pucker. I'll get a little scared because especially if it's looking like the defense is definitely just going to get run over, which I feel like they are. But that'll be a little scary. And again, much like against Stanford, like the teams weren't sapping the clock, but just because there was so much offense happening, that limited the number of possessions. I think WSU only had 10 possessions against Stanford. So if you waste that, if you send that field goal unit out, those possessions just become more magnified when you're not getting as many. So So hopefully Leach has that in his mind when if we have a 4th and short, he might maybe let them go for it because the Beaver defense is awful. There's a good chance you're going to get it and just go score some touchdowns, son.
He probably won't.
I know. So this is
there's nothing we've seen that makes him think. And what's so just like insane about it is this is the best offense he's had. This is the best running back he's had. This is the most explosive set of receivers he's had. I think we both have come to the conclusion that he does it because the kicker is so good. He's like, I know I can get 3 points if I kick, which is if the kicker was like a 75% kicker instead of a, 100% kicker, I think at that point he'd probably be like, let's just go ahead and go. But somewhere in his brain, he's doing like some tortured math about, okay, well, if I go for it, I still might not score a touchdown. But if I just take the field goal now, I can definitely get 3 points. And 3 points is this much of 7. And I'm just like, just go score touchdowns, man. Just go score touchdowns. So anyway. Just please
capitalize
on the trips, capitalize on the opportunities.
Yeah, because you're gonna have they're gonna be there. There's gonna be opportunities and Anthony, don't throw a dumb one in the.
That's right. That's gonna be I think the big key is no dumb ones
because he seems to have been having one every game.
Yep.
And it's been fine. And either they've been getting blown out or. Well, it wasn't good against Oregon.
I was gonna say it wasn't fine against Oregon, but
so he seems to be having one. The one against Stanford was pretty bad. Don't know where he was throwing the ball. He had made that throw earlier, but it wasn't even the same situation.
Right.
I think they kind of saw him make that throw earlier and kind of maybe duped him into it. Anthony, just be careful with the ball, but also convert. There's going to be open guys. They're not going to cover.
Yeah.
Maybe won't have as much time as against Stanford. We can go ahead and say that, but just be better with your pre-snap read and finding that open hole because Oregon State's going to be aggressive and they have a talented pass rusher. But I'm sufficiently worried.
Yeah. I mean, I'm mildly worried. I take a lot of solace in the fact that we're playing at home.
Yep. So that's WSU in the last 2 games has played really well at home. Really every game except for a quarter and a half has played well at home. They've definitely overperformed our expectations against Colorado and Stanford.
Yep. So
that is making me feel a little better, but also Oregon State's played pretty well on the road. So I don't know. This is I think just my nerves of the stakes of the game. It's funny, we've had much higher stakes in the last 4 years. This is just to go to a bowl game, but just that UCLA game just made everything higher stakes. I'm nervous. Like I said, Bill Connolly predicts 44-27. Vegas opened as the Cougs as a 12.5 point favorite. Has come down to 10.5 because everyone else is looking at the stuff I'm looking at and getting worried. So the people who have, I think that Bill Connolly's models are pretty close to what Vegas uses. They think the Cougs are going to roll as they did last week, and they did. But it's still, we watch the Cougs, and we watch that defense, and we watch Mike Leach kick field goals on 4th and 3, and we know now that Jonathan Smith doesn't do that. So yeah, I'm a little more worried. I wish I never would have done the research.
You're like, I wish I knew less. Yeah, I think that we're going to give up points. Okay, so I'm going to say Oregon State scores 35 points, but I'm going to say that we also score 45. So I'm going to go 45-35 Cougs. So maybe enough to cover depending on where you get your action, or maybe not enough to cover depending on where you get your action. So, but I think that's,
if you're coming to this for gambling tips, don't do that.
But that's, that's Oregon State scoring touchdowns on half their drives, roughly. And that's us, kicking a field goal somewhere in there and scoring 6 touchdowns. So, yeah, I could buy that. I could also see us going higher than that too. I don't know. Maybe Oregon State can go higher than that, but I tend to think that, I'm not feeling like, you mentioned, Bill C's model. If his model's thinking, 27 points, knowing, full well how terrible our defense is, I'm willing to say, okay, maybe another touchdown on top of that, but I think it's tough to maybe see how it goes much, much farther north of that.
All right. I don't see WSU not scoring very much. But yeah, there is that kind of worry that we're kicking field goals or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think even so last week they scored every time except one. They ended up at 49 with 2 missed extra points.
Yep.
I'll say we don't do that again because that would just be insane.
Yep.
But I think we come pretty close. Let's go 48 to 41. Cougs.
Ooh. So are you predicting a missed extra point from the Beavers?
Sorry, 48-42.
Or a missed 2-pointer?
No.
No,
yeah.
You're just going to go with the 42.
No, yeah, I'm going to get 48-40. Well, he haven't missed one all year, but they just have a shitty kicker. But 48-42. Yeah, well, I'll adjust that. So they'll be a little scarier. Now I'm wondering, so if it's 48-42, does that mean we're scoring late to win? Like with 10 seconds left?
Yeah, I don't know. I hope not. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I think the Cougs will win. I just don't think it's to be a 17-point spread like SP Plus says. I don't think it's to be a 10-point spread. Well, you do think that. So yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty worried, but I still think the Cougs will win. I think home field advantage will propel them.
Too. That's my big thing. And I know you mentioned, Cal has played okay on the road, but look at who they've played on the road.
Oregon State.
Or sorry, Oregon State. Yes, I know.
God,
that's who we're talking about.
Again. Don't make us play Cal again. No.
But I was thinking about Cal because Cal was, maybe the one semi-decent team they played on the road. They've played Hawaii. They played UCLA. Now, they played UCLA before UCLA figured their shit out. So they played UCLA back on October 5th. So
they played them right after they figured their shit out against
us, right? So, but they, what UCLA is doing right now is not what UCLA was doing back then. They still had a couple more games to kind of get it fully turned around. And then they played Cal and they played Arizona, and Arizona, I think is probably the worst team in the conference. And they barely beat Cal, and granted we couldn't do that, but I'm also like, whatever, weird shit happens whenever we play Cal, and I don't know that there's much predictive value in that. So, they've played okay on the road, but they've also played some pretty bad teams on the road. Now, granted, we are, or at least have the capability of being a bad team, but we are also a pretty not great team that also tends to play our best at home, other than a little more than one quarter. So I really think that's the difference in the game. I do expect some bullshit. I do expect that there will be some of these, pull your hair out kind of moments, but I also expect that they end up winning by a touchdown or more in the end.
All right. Let's hope so. Let's get to bowl eligibility.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Let's
do not want to be thinking about bowl eligibility in the Apple Cup.
I don't want to be thinking about anything in the Apple Cup. I don't even know if I want to watch it.
All I want to think about is my beer that I'm going to consume.
Exactly.
The multiple beers.
But I do want to watch this game, and I want to watch it and be happy. So
yes, because we are both
in the
stadium.
In so please, Cougs, make us happy. Anthony Gordon,
make it happen.
Break that Pac-12 touchdown record. That would help.
Yeah. Why don't you just go ahead and throw for 700 yards and go ahead and eclipse 5,000 yards on Saturday?
Yeah, that would be great.
Do that. Let's do them both.
Let's do them both. I feel good. Well, then get to like 8 or 9 touchdowns if you're gonna do that. So
that's cool. I'd be okay. I'd be okay if we got to 9 touchdowns again, except we won this time.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
That would be better.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, Jeff, go Cougs.
Go Cougs.